says that humanity is leaving the age of Pisces and entering the golden era or age of Aquarius was popularized by Blavatsky. Theosophists teach that Jesus was simply representative of the astrological age of Pisces, and that he was an initiate into the mystery schools or cults of spiritual teachers and masters. They teach that the age of Aquarius is going to be a new utopian age when the world unites into a one-world system, the exiting out of the age of Jesus and its outdated form of religion, and the entering into the age of a new world teacher. They claim that each astrological age is accompanied by a new world teacher such as Buddha, Krishna, Jesus Christ, and the coming new age Maitreya. So, for the advent of the new age of Aquarius, they claim that a new world teacher will guide humanity into it. Now, Blavatsky advocated monism, a one-world brotherhood, a unity of mankind. It's interesting to note that God created disunity amongst mankind when he created confusion of the languages at the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament. This was done to prevent humans from uniting in rebellion against God, exactly the unity being promoted by Blavatsky and proponents of the new one-world Antichrist religion. In Blavatsky's book, The Keys to Theosophy, she lists three main goals of theosophy. Firstly, the universal brotherhood of humanity without distinction of race, color, or creed. Secondly, to promote the study of the world's religions. And thirdly, to investigate the hidden mysteries of nature. Theosophy is the first major New Age group, and they are largely responsible for many of the New Age beliefs, including the belief that Jesus represented the sun god. It is claimed that Jesus is actually a reincarnation of the Egyptian sun god Horus. Horus is one of the oldest and most significant deities in ancient Egyptian religion. Horus served many functions in the Egyptian pantheon, most notably being the god of the sun, war, and protection. He is known as the god of vengeance, the god of the sky, protection, and war. At the heart of all occult teachings is pride, that their secrets are only for the select few. It caters for an elitist mindset. At the heart of all they teach and do is the attempt to discredit the true God, the deity of Jesus Christ, the Bible, and Christians in general. Now in Ephesians 6 verse 12, the Bible reveals that we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. So we can see that this is part of a spiritual battle. It's not people that we're fighting against. These ideas and ideologies and so-called spiritual principles come out of the demonic realm. These are spirit beings that are peering to these occultists and seeding their lies into their writings, into their minds, into their spirits. And of course, these doctrines of demons are then taught as so-called truths or spiritual revelation. Now, as far back as 1917, people were already recognizing the relationship between Freemasonry and Theosophy. Freemasonry, viewed doctrinally, is in fact Theosophy. Theosophists and Freemasons taught that Jesus was the sun god, S-U-N god, and that he was based in the age of Pisces within the zodiac. The Marxist Theosophist Annie Besant taught, then the sun retrograded into Pisces at the time of the birth of Jesus Christ, the Pisces influence being shown by cures performed by stepping into pools of water, Christ choosing his first apostles from fishermen. This was quoted in Lucifer magazine. Now Blavatsky also a fish. Some of his early disciples were fishermen. Pisces, a conventional shape for the fish. Thus, a fish, Palmer Hall, a notorious occultist, taught. During the age of Pisces, the fish was the symbol of divinity and the sun god, S-U-N, the sun god, fed the multitudes with 2 small fishes. Again, Blavatsky says, for the salvation of the world, this was the sun, S-U-N, shorn of his golden rays and crowned with black ones. Jesus and even Apollonius of Tyana were but epitomizers of the history of the sun. As Theosophy grew, it produced another prominent woman called Alice Bailey. She was born in June 6, 1880, who convinced New Agers that humanity needs to establish a one-world government and one-world religion in preparation for the coming age of Aquarius. In order to achieve this, she deemed it necessary to teach humanity the religion of Theosophy and Freemasonry. She speaks of a spiritual war between esotericists and those who refuse to accept the New Age. Quote, "It will be fought largely with mental weapons and in the world of thought. It will involve also the emotional realm from the standpoint of idealistic fanaticism. This inherent fanaticism will fight against the appearance of the coming world religion and the spread of esotericism. It must not be forgotten that only those souls who are on the probationary path or the path of discipleship will form the nucleus of the coming world religion. There is no question, therefore, that the work to be done in familiarizing the general public with the nature of the mysteries is of paramount importance at this time. When the Great One comes with his disciples and initiates, we shall have the restoration of the mysteries and their exoteric presentation as a consequence of the first initiation." Now, from these doctrines, we can see that the stated objective of these occultists is to indoctrinate the public with their esoteric religious ideas and to externalize their occult teachings in humanity with the ultimate realization of a new world order that is devoid of what they call the negative influences of traditional Christianity. By this, they mean that Christians who claim that salvation can be found through Jesus Christ alone and only through Christianity, and that the Bible is the source of absolute truth, these people, they say, are divisive, narrow-minded, bigoted, fundamentalist, idealistic fanatics who are hindering the spiritual evolution of humanity. In other words, Christians are holding back the planet and retarding human progress on the planet. They are referring, of course, to spiritual evolution. We are retarding the spiritual evolution of humanity. Alice Bailey also reveals that Freemasonry is meant to produce advanced occultists and is in accordance with theosophical goals. She says, "The Masonic movement, when it can be divorced from politics and social end and from its present paralyzing condition of inertia, will meet the need of those who can and should wield power. It is the custodian of the law. It is the home of the mysteries and the seat of initiation. It holds in its symbolism the ritual of deity, and the way of salvation is pictorially preserved in its work. The methods of deity are demonstrated in its temples, and under the all-seeing eye, the work can go forward. It is a far more occult organization than can be realized, and is intended to be the training school for the coming advanced occultists." In his book entitled Arcana of Freemasonry, Albert Churchward says, quote, "Can the unity of the world be accomplished by Freemasons? Yes, and by Freemasons only." End of quote. Freemasonry presents itself to the world as a friendly, fraternal order where men meet to network and socialize, but it is in fact an occult religious system. Freemasonry itself was infiltrated by the Illuminati in the late 18th century. Although there is a lot of fictional embellishment about the Illuminati, certain key facts have been established. Number one, the Illuminati did in fact exist in Bavaria in Germany. Number two, it was founded on the 1st of May 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. What is today celebrated as May Day or Labor Day is in fact the celebration of the birth of the Illuminati. 3. The organization was a type of revolutionary organization that sought political and societal reform. Interestingly enough, this was based on the assumption that if you could just gather enough really intelligent people together, you could solve all the world's problems. 4. The order grew and became very popular. 5. It was outlawed by the ruler of Bavaria, Duke Karl Theodor, who issued 3 edicts against the Illuminati, the third being in 1787. 6. Illuminati writings were discovered after the arrests of members and raids of castles. 7. The original writings were written in High German and published in a book entitled Proofs of a Conspiracy Against All the Religions and Governments of Europe by John Robinson, and another book, Memoirs Illustrating the History of Jacobinism by A. Barruel. 8. The writings revealed that the Illuminati wanted a one-world system ruled by them, the overthrow of religion, and in order to achieve this, infiltration of Freemasonry. By infiltrating Freemasonry, they would be able to operate under another name or persona. Now, quoting from Adam Weishaupt, he says, "Do you realize sufficiently what it means to rule? to rule in a secret society, not only over the lesser or more important of the populace, but over the best of men, over men of all ranks, nations, and religions, to rule without external force, to unite them indissolubly, to breathe one spirit and soul into them, men distributed over all parts of the world. The prolific Masonic author and historian Albert Mackey writes, quote, "To give the order a higher influence, Weishaupt connected it with the Masonic institution after whose system of degrees and esoteric instruction and of secret modes of recognition it was organized. The organization enrolled some of the most distinguished men of Germany, and it expanded rapidly into other countries. The original design of Illuminism was undoubtedly the elevation of the human race, but it cannot be denied that in the process of time abuses crept into the institution, and that by the influence of unworthy men this system became corrupted." End of quote. Of elitism and globalization and the overthrow of religion, namely Christianity. Albert Mackey states that the Illuminati infiltrated Freemasonry before it was outlawed, so we have every reason to believe that it still exists today. By the time the Bavarian government outlawed it in Bavaria, it was already too late because it had spread worldwide. George Washington, himself a Freemason, believed that the Illuminati existed, and that some of the founders of the United States had the objectives of the Illuminati in mind from the outset, such as the separation of the people from their government. The then president of Yale University in 1798 stated, "There is sufficient evidence that a number of societies of the Illuminati have been established in this land of gospel light and civil liberty, which were first organized from the Grand Society in France. They are doubtless secretly striving to undermine all our ancient institutions, civil and sacred. These societies are closely leagued with those of the same order in Europe, and they all have the same objects in view. The enemies of all order are seeking our ruin. Should infidelity generally prevail, our independence would fall, of course. Our republican government would be annihilated." Because this Illuminati doctrine of globalization and societal reform was fused into Freemasonry, later prominent Masons started voicing their anticipation of a new world order and a one-world system. Quote, "The express aim of this order was to abolish Christianity and overthrow all civil government." End of quote. Another quote says, "The great strength of our order lies in its concealment. Let it never appear in any place in its own name, but always covered by another name and another occupation. None is fitter than the three lower degrees of Freemasonry. The public is accustomed to it, expects little from it, and therefore takes little notice of it." End of quote. Freemasonry is just one of many ways to get people into the occult. The highest levels of Freemasonry and Theosophy are now striving for a new world order and a one-world religion. Their dogma is that to enter into the coming age of Aquarius, the world has to unite into a one-world government or new world order. Quote, "Mystic Masonry is not only the key to the religion taught to all men in all ages from the very beginning of conscious life up to the present, but it holds the keys to these religions and is in fact the very repository of religion itself. It has for its objects the uniting of mankind into a universal brotherhood." End of quote. The Scottish Masonic magazine The New Age admits that it is seeking a new race, a new religion, and a new civilization, which is the great plan for America. It says, "Great God, our King, has chosen the great American public schools to pave the way for the new race, the new religion, and the new civilization that is taking place in America. Any mother, father, or guardian who is responsible for the taking away of freedom of mind, freedom of will, or freedom of spirit is the lowest criminal on this earth, because they take away from that child the God-given right to become a part of God's great plan in America for the dawn of the new age of the world." End of quote. Now, what many people don't realize is that America was founded by the Freemasons of Europe as a Masonic experiment. That's why, for example, New York is named after the York Rites of Freemasonry in England, New York. And the Statue of Liberty, which was donated by the Freemasons of France to America is in fact a statue that signifies a spiritual evolution where man becomes God through spiritual enlightenment. This is why you have like these rays of the sun around the head of this goddess Columbia, which is standing with this flame or the light. This all signifies that Lucifer, the light bearer, brings enlightenment to humanity. Manly P. Hall, a high-level occultist, states, quote, "The new Atlantis sets forth an ideal government of the earth. It foretells that day when in the midst of men there shall rise up a vast institution composed of the philosophic elect, an order of illumined men banded together for the purpose of investigating the laws of life and the mysteries of the universe. The age of boundaries is closing, and we are approaching a nobler era when nations shall be no more, when the lines of race and caste shall be wiped out, when the whole earth shall be under one order, one government, one administrative body." I'm now going to quote Alice Bailey. Freemasonry employ 3 arguments to debunk Christianity. Number 1, the belief that the story of Jesus was copied from other religions. Number 2, that Jesus is a representation of the sun, S-U-N. Number 3, that Jesus ushered in the astrological age of Pisces. Now, of course, that's ridiculous because the Bible clearly teaches against people getting involved with astrology. Now, it makes sense that theosophists would spread these views because they want a world system that believes in the age of Aquarius. In discrediting Christianity and associating Jesus with astrology, they can get apostate Christians on board in their false religion.
And as far as the spiritual aspect of life, we're all pure spirituality. Of course there's something outside of understanding because we're just a fragment inside this larger whole. I am Zeitgeist with a very positive note. We're talking about the consciousness, the whole consciousness, because you can scientifically orient yourself and even more importantly, spiritually orient yourself into a collective consciousness to realize that we're all one organism. And the moment people stop dividing themselves up and generating religious division, political division, the moment people stop fighting amongst themselves is the moment paradise will dawn.
A New Ager who calls herself Acharya S. wrote a book called The Christ Conspiracy, the greatest story ever sold. She says, "But the future is now, and the maneuvers are being unveiled. As far as Christianity's role in this new age, Carpenter states, Christianity, therefore, as I say, must either now come frankly forward and acknowledge its parentage from the great order of the past, seek to rehabilitate that, and carry mankind one step forward in the path of evolution, or else it must perish. There is no alternative." End of quote. In another section of the book she says, "Despite the vilification of the so-called New Age movement, the fact is that we are entering a new age. The age referred to in the gospel tale is that of Pisces, and through contrivance and duplicity, coercion and slaughter, the fish god Jesus, the Piscean solar avatar, has indeed been with us, but now it is the close of the age and his time is over. We live today in an astrological no man's land at the end of the age of Pisces, on the threshold of the new age of Aquarius. Traditionally, these times of transition between one age and the next have been regarded as ill-omened. Ill-omened verily, as the ongoing destruction of the earth and the endless warfare over ideology will indeed produce the Armageddon so long awaited and planned by those who cannot live for today, but must look towards an afterlife. By realizing the cultural unity revealed behind the Christ conspiracy, however, humanity can pull together and prevent this fall in order to create a better world. The equinox will reach the sign of Aquarius, and coinciding the great cycle of influence, we can indeed hope to put a complete end to all the influence of the past cycle with its tyranny, slavery, war, and cruelty." End of quote. Another quote. "This is one of the great transitional epochs and the karma before humanity as a whole, and to every group in particular, is to reform itself from slavery, female subjection, war and cruelty, and establish a civilization based on humanness and interest in spiritual matters, end of quote. Of course, this is all talk about the demise of Christianity. New Age utopia is being made to sound wonderful amidst claims that suddenly humanity will no longer be at war with one another, there will be no more divisive religions, that this will all be done away with and replaced with a mystery spiritual oneness, and that everybody's going to live in a heaven on earth. They even claim that this New Age utopia will supply all our needs, such as free energy and raising all debts, even to the point where all laws will be done away with. No one, it seems, is going to have to do any work. But of course, what they're actually describing is one world socialistic government that will provide the needs only of those who accept the mark of the beast described in the Bible. This New Age utopia will come along with massive depopulation. The coming New World Order is going to be a combination of tyrannical, fascist world leaders who have replaced the teachings of the Bible and the God of the Bible with their man-made religion, which has been shaped and formed from every occult and pagan influence. The extreme irony of all this is that the world is in fact not improving and progressing. It's being plunged into a deep, dark spiritual vacuum. This vacuum will be and is already being filled with every sort of extreme evil. This is already becoming self-evident in the media. The Age of Aquarius is in fact an attempt by man to enthrone himself as God and to declare liberation from the demands and restraints of what New Age Luciferians claim is a tyrannical, evil God who seeks only to keep humanity in the Dark Ages. They claim that Adam and Eve were held captive in the Garden of Eden, where they existed in a subhuman state. They claim that Lucifer, the light bearer, liberated them by bringing them the gift of intellect. Now, the same fallen angel is bringing further enlightenment and liberation to all of humanity, as he did to Adam and Eve. The truth is out. We can all become gods. Luciferianism and the Ascended Masters. According to the New Agers, Theosophists, as well as many elitists and Freemasons, there exists a group of highly evolved men and women called the Masters of Wisdom. These groups claim that Buddha, Krishna, Muhammad, and Jesus were all Masters of Wisdom, and that a being named Maitreya is the leader of these Masters of Wisdom, but that he in turn is subject to the true leader, Sanat Kumara. Now, who is Sanat Kumara? Well, the New Age occultists tell us, quote, Satan is an anagram for Sanat Kumara, who in the esoteric philosophy of India is the Promethean being who gave mankind the fire of self-conscious and independent individual selfhood, end of quote. Quote, Satan has a possible echo in theosophic law, where the Lord of the world, the spiritual ruler of the earth, and head of the Great White Lodge is Sanat Kumara, a lord of the flame who descended to earth from Venus in a fiery chariot some 6 million years ago, end of quote. Teaches that Lucifer is actually a divine being that saves mankind and brings him consciousness. Many modern-day New Agers who are deceived by theosophy repeat the same theme. For example, David Spangler admits that Lucifer is a being that New Agers honor, and that the light of Lucifer is the light of God. Quote, he says, the true light of Lucifer cannot be seen through sorrow, through darkness, or through rejection. The true light of this great being can only be recognized when one's own eyes can see with the light of the Christ, the light of the inner sun. Lucifer works within each of us, trying to bring us to wholeness as we move into the New Age, which is the age of man's wholeness. Each of us in some way is brought to that point, which I term the Luciferic initiation, the particular doorway through which the individual must pass if he is to come fully into the presence of his light with his wholeness. Lucifer comes to give us the final gift of wholeness if we accept it, that he is free and we are free. This is the Luciferic initiation. It is one that many people now and in the days ahead will be facing, for it is an initiation into the New Age. It is an initiation of leaving the past and moving into the new, shedding our guilt and fears, our anxieties, our needs, our temptations, and becoming whole and at peace because we have recognized our inner light, the light that unfolds us, the light of God. End of quote. We can now therefore conclude that Luciferian doctrine is fused into the New Age movement through Theosophy. Along with this doctrine is the belief that because of Satan, man will now evolve spiritually and intellectually, conquer the world, conquer nature, and become a god. Now here is an admission that Freemasonry is aimed at creating God-men, just as Hitler wanted to do. The purpose of initiation in Freemasonry is to attain godhood. Quote, "The height of the lodge, even as high as the heavens, implies that the range of consciousness possible to us when we have developed our potentialities to the full is infinite. Man who has sprung from the earth and developed through the lower kingdoms of nature to his present rational state has yet to complete his evolution by becoming a godlike being and unifying his consciousness with the omniscient to promote which is and always has been the sole aim and purpose of all initiation." End of quote. Maitreya and Benjamin Krem.
Religion, folks, is going to have a worldwide leader. A charismatic political and religious leader that they call Lord Maitreya. At least so far that's who they call him, or that's what they call him. This individual, as far as I know, has not made his public appearance yet, but the New Agers claim that he is on the earth at the present time. They claim that he came to live with the Asian community in East London, England, in July 1977 by descending from his ancient retreat in the Himalaya Mountains along the border of India and Tibet. They further believe that his imminent emergence into full public view is assured. They also claim that this individual is the one that the Christians call Christ, the Jews call the Messiah, the Buddhists call the fifth Buddha, the Hindus call Krishna, and the Muslims call the Imam Mahdi. In other words, all of the major religions of the world are awaiting the arrival of this one individual. And they say that he is on the earth now, patiently waiting for the appointed time to reveal his existence to the peoples of the world. They say that he will apparently assume the leadership of all of these religions, and when he does, he will create a one-world religion. The New Agers have written that in the esoteric tradition, previously defined as being intended for or understood by only a chosen few as an inner group of disciples or initiates, in other words, the esoteric means hidden. They claim that the word Christ is not the name of an individual, but the name of an office or function within the spiritual hierarchy of masters. They claim that the masters are a group of perfected men who have guided human evolution from behind the scenes for centuries, and they believe that this Lord Maitreya is that Christ. Now, Manly P. Hall has written of this individual by identifying him as, quote, "the way, the truth, and the life, which coming to every life redeems all who accept it," unquote.
Now, since